My wealthy wife, the CEO, threw me out after believing her sister's lies. 3 weeks later, she asked if I'd had time to reflect. I handed her divorce papers. Her sister lost it. You know how they say hindsight is 20/20? Well, let me tell you something. Sometimes you can see the train wreck coming from a mile away, but you're too damn stubborn to get off the tracks. That's basically the story of my life, or at least the 44 years leading up to this spectacular mess I'm about to lay on you. My name is Marcus Thorne, and up until about 3 months ago, I thought I was living the American dream. Picture this. A decent-looking guy with a solid career in project management, married to one of the most powerful women in the city, Elena Vance. Yeah, that Vance, the one whose face graces the cover of Forbes every other month. She was my wife, CEO of Vance Luxury Real Estate, a company that basically owns half the prime real estate from Manhattan to the Hamptons. When people heard I was married to Elena Vance, their jaws would hit the floor. On paper, we were perfect. She brought the big bucks, the connections, the kind of influence that gets you tables at restaurants that don't even have names on their doors. I brought stability, reliability, and what she used to call a charming everyman quality. Translation: I was the normal guy who made her feel like she wasn't completely living in an ivory tower made of $100 bills. Our wedding photos looked like something straight out of Architectural Digest. Her penthouse overlooked Central Park, with floor-to-ceiling windows that made you feel like you were floating above the city. The marble kitchen island cost more than most people's cars. And don't even get me started on the wine cellar. Elena would joke that marrying me was the best investment she'd ever made. I'd laugh along, thinking she meant it in a sweet, romantic way. Spoiler alert, she didn't. But here's where our fairy tale takes a hard left into nightmare territory. See, Elena had a younger sister, Isabella Vance. If Elena was the golden child, then Isabella was the family's professional disappointment, wrapped in designer clothes and an attitude that could curdle milk. Isabella was 28, unemployed by choice, and had perfected the art of living off her sister's generosity. Elena paid for her Manhattan apartment, her credit cards, her gym membership, everything. Isabella called it family support. The rest of us called it freeloading with a trust fund twist. From day one, Isabella looked at me like I was something unpleasant she'd stepped on. Every family dinner, every holiday, she'd give me that look, like she was mentally calculating how much of her sister's money I was costing them. Isabella had a talent for making her poison sound like concern. "Elena, honey," she'd say, her voice dripping with fake worry, "don't you think Marcus seems a little too comfortable with your lifestyle? It's so sweet how he's adapted to luxury so quickly." And Elena, bless her brilliant but naive heart, would just nod along. The dinner table became my personal hell. Elena would discuss her latest multi-million-dollar deal. I'd try to contribute, and Isabella would smirk. "Marcus, tell us about your day," she'd say with fake sweetness. "Did you manage any interesting projects? Nothing too stressful, I hope. We wouldn't want you getting overwhelmed." The subtext was always there. You don't belong here. Slowly, painfully, I noticed Elena changing. The woman who used to look at me like I hung the moon began studying me like a puzzle. Her laugh became polite. "How was your day, sweetheart?" became, "So what exactly did you accomplish today?" Isabella was a master manipulator, planting seeds of doubt that burrowed into Elena's brain like psychological termites. "I just worry about you sometimes, Elena," she'd whisper during their sisterly bonding sessions. "You're so trusting. Some people might take advantage of that." I tried talking to Elena about it once. Big mistake. "Isabella loves me, Marcus," she said, looking at me like I'd accuse her sister of running a meth lab. "She's just looking out for me. Maybe if you tried harder to understand her." That's when I realized I was fighting a battle I couldn't win. But here's what neither of them knew. I might have been the stable, reliable husband, but I wasn't stupid, and I sure as hell wasn't going down without a fight. The affair accusation started on a Tuesday. I was supposed to meet Elena for lunch when I got a text. Rain check on lunch. Need to think about some things Isabella told me. When I got home that evening, the penthouse was cold. Elena was sitting in her favorite white leather chair. "We need to talk," she said. "Sure, what's up?" I said, my stomach churning. "Isabella saw you having lunch with a woman today, a blonde woman at Cafe Milano." This was ridiculous. I hadn't been anywhere near Cafe Milano. "Elena, I was in meetings all day. I can show you my calendar, my emails." "It's not just today, Marcus," she said, and I could practically hear Isabella's voice. "She's been noticing things. The way you've been dressing better, staying late at work." "You mean I've been dressing better because you bought me better clothes? And staying late because we landed 3 new major clients?" But logic doesn't work when someone's already decided you're guilty. The money accusations came next. According to Isabella, I'd been funneling funds into side businesses. Elena showed me bank statements with transfers to accounts she didn't recognize. Those mysterious transfers were me putting money into a savings account to surprise Elena with a trip to Italy for our anniversary. The account was literally labeled Anniversary Fund Italy Trip. "Elena, those are savings for your anniversary present. I can log in right now and show you." "You could have set that up as a cover story," she replied. The paranoia was absolute. I watched my wife transform into someone I didn't recognize. My friends tried to warn me. "Dude, that sister-in-law of yours is toxic," my coworker David told me. "Elena is letting her pull the strings." But I was stubborn. I thought love would win. I was wrong. The final confrontation happened on a Thursday night. I walked in, looking forward to a quiet weekend. Instead, Elena was standing in the living room in her power suit, arms crossed. Isabella stood behind her, smirking. "Pack your things, Marcus," Elena said, her voice colder than a Manhattan winter. "I can't trust you anymore." I stood there, stunned. "I'm sorry, what?" "You heard me. I want you out tonight. I can't have someone I don't trust living under my roof anymore." Her roof, not our roof. "Elena, honey, let's talk about this." "Don't you dare try to turn this around on my sister," she snapped. "Isabella didn't make you lie to me. She didn't make you sneak around or use me for my money." "None of that is true, and you know it. I've never lied to you, I've never cheated on you, and I have never used you." Isabella actually snorted. "Oh, please, Marcus, save the performance." "I'm not talking to you," I shot back. "In fact, I'm pretty sure none of this is any of your damn business." "It became my business the moment you started hurting my sister," she retorted. "Isabella wouldn't lie to me about something this serious, Marcus," Elena said, positioning herself slightly in front of her sister. "She loves me, and frankly, she's been right about you from the beginning." "So that's it? 3 years of marriage, and you're throwing it all away because your unemployed, freeloading sister convinced you I'm a criminal mastermind?" The unemployed and freeloading comments hit their mark. Isabella flushed red. "Leave, Marcus, now, before I call security." Security? She was threatening to call security on her own husband? I looked around the living room one last time. At the couch where we watched movies, the table where we hosted dinners. It all felt foreign. "Fine," I said, my voice distant. "I'll pack a bag." 10 minutes later, I walked out with a single duffel bag. The door closed behind me with a final hollow sound. Standing on the sidewalk, watching life go on, I felt something unexpected, underneath the hurt and betrayal, relief. They thought they'd won. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. The next 3 weeks were spent in a crappy downtown apartment. The refrigerator sounded like a dying whale, and my neighbors practiced interpretive dance at 2 a.m. But it was mine. The first few days were rough. I'd wake up reaching for Elena, only to remember. But my phone never rang. Not once. Radio silence. Meanwhile, Isabella was having the time of her life on social media, posting from Elena's accounts about cutting toxic dead weight and being grateful for family who has your back. But instead of getting angry, I got curious. Why was Isabella doing all the public gloating while Elena was quiet? Why were none of Elena's business associates reaching out to me? So I started doing what I do best, research. I discovered that Vance Luxury Real Estate was having a challenging quarter. Deals had fallen through, investors had pulled out. Then I looked at our prenuptial agreement, the one Elena had insisted on to protect me. She'd included clauses for substantial alimony if the marriage ended due to her unreasonable behavior, like throwing her husband out based on lies without evidence. While I was building my case, documenting everything, the call came. "Marcus," Elena's voice was small. "We need to talk. Have you had time to reflect?" Reflect like a naughty child. "Sure, Elena, I've had plenty of time to reflect." "Good. Can you come to my office tomorrow? I think we should discuss how to move forward." "I'll be there," I said. But not for the reason she thought. I arrived at her office building 20 minutes early, wearing the suit she'd bought me, carrying the briefcase she'd given me. The irony was beautiful. I was shown to Conference Room A, the one with the floor-to-ceiling windows where she held her most important meetings. She wanted this to be business. She was at the head of the mahogany table. Isabella sat to her right, smirking. "Marcus," Elena began in her CEO voice, "please sit. I hope these past few weeks have given you time to think about everything that's happened." "Oh, I've been thinking," I said calmly. "I've been thinking a lot." "Good, because we need to discuss our future." "Actually, Elena," I said, reaching for my briefcase, "you're right. We do need to discuss our future." I clicked it open and pulled out a neat stack of papers, starting with these. I slid them across the table. "I'd like you to sign these divorce papers." The silence was absolute. Clara's hand hovered over the papers. Her mask was cracking. Isabella's smirk had vanished, replaced by panic. "What? What is this?" Elena managed. "Divorce papers. The legal documents that officially end a marriage when one party throws the other out based on fabricated accusations." Elena picked them up, her hands trembling as she read. "Marcus, surely we can discuss this privately. There's no need for lawyers." "Oh, we are discussing it like adults," I said cheerfully. "These are adult consequences for adult decisions." "You can't do this!" Isabella exploded, slamming her hand on the table. "You can't just destroy my sister's life because you got caught." "Caught doing what, exactly?" I asked calmly. "The affairs at Cafe Milano where I wasn't? The mysterious money transfers that were for an anniversary trip?" I pulled out my phone. "Would you like to see the savings account? It's labeled Anniversary Fund, Italy Trip." Elena was reading the prenup clauses, her face ghostly. "These clauses, I don't remember." "You insisted on them," I reminded her gently. "You said you never wanted me to worry that you might use your wealth as a weapon." The irony was thick. "Elena, you can't sign this," Isabella whispered urgently. "How much?" Elena asked quietly. "According to the prenup you drafted, given the circumstances, monthly alimony comes to roughly 30% of your net income for 5 years, with a lump sum payment of $2,400,000 to be paid within 60 days of the decree." Isabella made a choking sound. $2.4 million? Elena, you can't afford that. The business, the expenses, the gambling debts, I suggested helpfully. Both women went utterly still. "Gambling debts?" Elena repeated slowly. And that's when Isabella lost it completely. "You bastard!" she screamed, launching herself from her chair. "You can't prove anything!" "Oh, but I can," I said, pulling a thick folder from my briefcase. "Gambling addiction is just the tip of the iceberg." I spread out bank statements. These show regular transfers from Vance luxury real estate's accounts into offshore holdings. Withdrawals correspond perfectly with timestamps from your casino selfies, Isabella. You've been quite the social media influencer. Elena was staring at the photos on my phone, her breathing shallow. "You stole from my company! You stole from me!" "I was borrowing," Isabella shrieked, hyperventilating. "I was going to pay it back. I was on a winning streak." "A winning streak?" I laughed. "According to these records, you've lost nearly $500,000. If that's winning, I'd hate to see you lose." The number hit Elena like a physical blow. $473,000? That's almost half our emergency fund. Isabella, in a fit of pure rage, grabbed a water pitcher and hurled it at me. I ducked, and it shattered against the wall. "You destroyed everything!" "Everything you built?" Elena's voice cut like ice. "You built nothing, Isabella. You've never worked a day in your life." "I think we should call security and the police," I interjected. "Embezzlement is a felony. Assault is a misdemeanor." The word police snapped Isabella back to reality. "Elena, please, I'm your sister, family. I can get help." "Don't what?" Elena interrupted. "Don't hold you accountable for destroying my marriage and my company?" The fight left Isabella. She collapsed, sobbing ugly, desperate tears. Elena looked at me, her expression unreadable. "Marcus," she said quietly, "I owe you an apology, a very big one." "Actually, Elena," I said, gathering my papers, "what you owe me is a signature on those divorce papers." But I wasn't done. I pulled out the final, thickest folder. The gambling is just the beginning. I revealed credit cards opened in Elena's name, 17 of them, maxed out. Loans secured against her company's assets. Forged signatures on deeds for condos in Miami, a beach house, a timeshare in Aspen. The total debt funneled onto Elena was over $2 million. The sisters faced each other across the wreckage, 28 years of history crumbling under the weight of evidence. "Sabrina," Elena said, her voice colder than I'd ever heard it, "did you forge my signature?" "I can explain. It was an investment." Clara picked up her phone. "I'm calling the police, my lawyer, and probably the FBI." As Isabella wept, Elena turned to me, a desperate hope in her eyes. "Marcus, is there any chance at all we can fix this?" I stood up, packing my briefcase with methodical care. "Fix this?" I repeated. "Elena, I'm not sure you understand what this is anymore." "I know I made mistakes. I trusted the wrong person. I should have believed you. Instead of me," I finished for her. "Instead of your husband. How do you plan to make that right? Can you give me back the 3 years? Can you undo the humiliation?" "I love you," she said desperately. "That has to count for something." "I believe you think you love me," I said, "but your love is conditional. It depends on other people's opinions. It evaporates when someone whispers in your ear. That's not love. That's convenience." I walked toward the door. "Elena, if you had just asked me, if you had just given me a chance to defend myself, none of this would have happened. Your marriage would be intact. Your business would be secure. But you chose to trust her over me. And now you get to live with the consequences." I walked out, the door closing on the sound of their ruined lives. And in the elevator, descending to the ground floor, I felt it. Not revenge, but freedom. It's been 6 months. My consulting business, Thorne Project Solutions, is thriving. The contacts I made through Elena are now my clients. I'm more successful on my own than I ever was before. Elena's empire crumbled. The fraud investigation, the bad press, the fleeing investors. She had to sell the penthouse and downsize. Her social circle evaporated. Isabella was charged with wire fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement. She got 8 years in federal prison. Elena tried to reach out, leaving voicemails that grew increasingly desperate. I never responded. What was there to say? The final divorce papers were signed on a Tuesday. In the courthouse, she looked small and worn. "I understand now, Marcus," she said. "I understand that I destroyed the best thing in my life." "I know you do," I said quietly. "But understanding doesn't undo the damage. Some trust, once broken, can't be repaired." Walking out of that courthouse, I felt genuine happiness for the first time in over a year. Not the satisfaction of revenge, but the joy of a future I built myself. Getting thrown out of that penthouse was the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to discover I was stronger and more capable than I'd ever known. Elena's world collapsed because it was built on a fragile foundation. My world is solid because I built it myself. When I signed those divorce papers, I didn't just end my marriage to Elena Vance. I began my life as Marcus Thorne. And let me tell you, it's a hell of a lot better than anything I left behind.